I am excited for our next panel. We have a wonderful group coming up. I hope you will stay for this one. It's like an afternoon of my friends. And so next up, we have a fantastic moderator. She comes from the West Coast, and she is one of the top journalists in the industry. If you haven't met her, I strongly suggest that you do. She's a wonderful person, a fantastic journalist, and a huge contributor to this industry. I am truly honored to welcome Rachelle Gordon to the stage for Built Through Advocacy, protecting Ohio's legal cannabis market.
Hello. Just sweetheart. Is Lori killing it up here or what? Can we give a hand to our moderator and our host with the most? She is amazing. Thank you so much for the kind words. All right. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to continue your conversations, please go in the hall. Otherwise, come sit down. We're getting through this amazing day, and thank you so much to Ignite It for having this event. Hopefully, you're all getting some really amazing content and great connections. Really happy to have you here. Again, this is Built Through Advocacy, protecting Ohio's legal market in its next chapter. And I'm going to go ahead and bring my panelists on stage. Hello, please join me. Come on up on stage. We have an amazing group of operators here, so I'm really excited to have them join me. Hi, welcome. Yes, please. Round of applause for our panelists. So, we are going on 2 years, right, of adult use here in Ohio. We've already seen a lot of changes in this market. I'm going to go ahead and let our panelists introduce themselves and explain a little bit more about what brings them to the stage and why they're here on this panel.
Sure, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name's Adam Thomarios. I'm the CEO and founder of Klutch Cannabis. What brings me to the panel is, I'm extremely happy to be here. So I'm happy that, we're at a point in this in the Ohio industry that it's starting to take off, and kind of started day one in the Ohio industry. Same with, I think, all of us on the stage. So just happy that there's an event where we can actually talk more about Ohio and where it's going.
Thanks, Adam. This is Andy Rayburn, and CEO of Buckeye Relief and Amplify Dispensaries. And I know there's a crowd out there, I just can't see you. It's a privilege to be up here with all of you, addressing the subject we're addressing, because all four of us were original members of the industry back in 17, 18, 19 when it started, when sales started. And it's a privilege to be with these guys. Three of us got together in March of 19 and started OCAN as well. And I've been to a number of these sessions today, and it seems like an OCAN commercial. So thanks, everybody, because joining OCAN is a really valuable thing. And we're all officers of that organization. So it's great to be up here. Thank you.
My name is Jared Maloof. I'm the CEO and a co-founder of Standard Wellness and The Forest. We operate here in Ohio and in Missouri and Utah and Maryland as well. And I'm also honored to be on the stage with everybody here. We've kind of been together for a long time now. It's amazing how fast time goes, but it's been a wild ride, and I'm hoping to keep the party going.
My name is Melissa Merse. I'm a Day One OG. I'm a managing partner with Ascension Biomedical. My history with these gentlemen has been incredible. Opening one of the first stores in the Cincinnati market at the very beginning, these three gentlemen sat across from me and pitched for me to put their items on the shelf. So I'm very honored to be sitting with them, and we are making waves here in Ohio, and hopefully you guys can learn from us today.
And the best news is you bought stuff from all of us.
All of you. Yes, Andy, I bought it all of you.
Thanks.
Already making deals. We love that. Awesome. So I want to start off talking about SB 56. Now, last year at this show, I can remember sitting here and listening as your state lawmakers were talking about the debate as they were currently working on SB 56. and one legislator actually saying he was getting death threats over some of the items in the bill. Fortunately, he's okay, and everything passed. And I'm just curious, looking at what changes that brought to the market. Adam, if you want to maybe walk us through what's different now under SB 56.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I think I'll kind of more focus on operational changes for our companies. Now, in order to get to where I'm going to go, I'm going to talk more about why 56 came about, right? So issue 2 passed, as you guys know, legal cannabis in Ohio. And the legislator at the time, they were thinking, oh man, what's happening? Is the sky going to fall in Ohio, right? So they had to kind of figure out a law that they wanted to pass. Originally, there was talk about a repeal of legal cannabis in Ohio, which we're all happy that never happened. But they kind of put something together that was going to put both medical and adult use law in place that would then kind of direct the program and direct the operators on what they needed to do. So the changes that they've kind of made, took a long time, right? Everybody here knows there was talk about pre-rolls starting in Ohio. It's going to make a big impact, a big splash. Revenue's going to go up. It was very slow rollout of the adult use program, and unfortunately, SB 56 passed and kind of provided clarity and direction for all of us operators. A lot of industry analysts said Ohio is going to explode. We're going to go to $2.5 billion in the first year. Well, that didn't happen. That didn't happen for a couple reasons, and one of which the reasons is very large. That was been a positive impact for the legal cannabis industry is intoxicating hemp. So part of SB 56 basically banned intoxicating hemp in the state. So moving forward, we don't have to compete with intoxicating hemp. Issue 2 never legalized unregulated marijuana. So, issue 2 that was passed, and SB 56 just kind of bolstered, strengthened direction and clarity in the market. So we're finally at a point where we're not competing with intoxicating hemp, and that's kind of the biggest change for I think in Ohio is not having to compete with intoxicating hemp, like I mentioned. But as far as other things that us as operators have changed, there's a potency cap differential, which still leaves it up to the DCC to allow to go up to 90, which they're leaving. Some of the other things, like there's going to be more advertising coming, which I know we're all excited to kind of move forward with. There's a cap of dispensaries at 400 stores. That's another thing that impacts us. There's an 8-store limit on ownership and control in the state. So, ideally, I think it's all net positive for us operators that Senate Bill 56 was passed, and we now finally have kind of direction and clarity on how to operate. And I think, a combination of what's happening in market is going to have Ohio get to where most people think it should be. So, thanks.
Any other follow-up thoughts on SB 56 or the changes it's brought, positive or negative?
Yeah, I'll jump in. The numbers are interesting because, first of all, since March 20th, when the ban kicked in, there was an immediate jump in illegal marijuana sales from about 10-15% immediate jump, which indicates that probably 10 to 15% of those stores closed voluntarily. So we jumped from a little over $1 billion pace to more like $1.3 billion pace for this year in our legal market. OCAN had a study done of the so-called intoxicating hemp market, which after several national organizations gathered several hundred samples from smoke shops and stores around Ohio, they had them tested. Over 90% of them tested just as marijuana products. And as you all know, that flower and pre-rolls and stuff primarily comes from Western and West Coast states, and the vapes and gummies and stuff come from primarily from offshore, China being the largest supplier. So when we call it intoxicating hemp, it was actually just a bunch of illegal marijuana being sold. So that's been the effect so far. The big challenge going forward, And it started pretty well. There's been some well-publicized busts and shutdowns of some larger sellers of the illegal stuff. But the real challenge is going to be to shut down the remaining 80 or 90% of these stores, because there's 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 of them around Ohio, and there's simply not enough law enforcement to get around to that many stores for years. So here's a tip for all of you that want to see something happen. If you see the so-called intoxicating hemp being sold in the smoke shop around your dispensary or in your neighborhood with kids riding up on bicycles, report them to your local police, because that's what gets them moving.
Okay. I want to read something from the Ignite It LinkedIn that I think is interesting and flows with something that we talked about on our pre-panel call. It says, Ohio is no longer an emerging cannabis market. It is a constrained one. With over 200 dispensaries operating against a 400 store cap, supply has not caught up. This is a market where demand is already scaled, but supply is still catching up. Now, we debated a little bit on our pre-panel call about whether there was an issue with supply and demand. Some people said yes, some people said no. Melissa, I know you had strong feelings about this. What are you seeing in the market?
So to preface this, I wear many hats. So I am a buyer. I see all the menus all across the entire state. And I am seeing shortages in offerings to independents. I'm going to speak as an independent purchaser. Half ounces. We talked about rosin. I have had to lean on and call some of my resources and my MSO connections just to fill my shelves. So there is definitely, we are not all built out, and with the SB 56 coming down, we saw an increase of our customer base come from somewhere, and they're asking the questions that we can't fill, and our bud tenders are taking all that information frontline. So there is definitely some opportunities for all of us to get our build-outs done so we can stay caught up. But right now, we're seeing a decrease in availability, specifically in half ounces and ounces. But I'll let Jared comment.
I agree that we are seeing a tightening of supply, but I do want to point out, just before this this panel, I looked at the price for a tenth on the state website, and at the time recreation launched, it was $22 per tenth, and today it's $17.80. So the long-term trend has been downwards. I do share Melissa's concern that there is a tightening in the marketplace, but I think it will prove to be short-lived.
Any other thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So it takes some time to get expansion of cultivation up and operating. So I guarantee you a lot of folks are doing this. I know for a fact that people are expanding. People are pouring capital into Ohio for expansion. I was fortunate enough to get our facility going and expanded fairly quickly. So I think there could be a lag specifically in some products, like we were talking about rosin. That's kind of a low yielding, not a high margin product. But as more capacity comes online in the state, I think all the products will be fairly plentiful.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to kind of move backwards a little bit for our next question. We were talking about intoxicating hemp. We were talking about bans on unregulated out-of-state cannabis now in Ohio. How are operators combating these competitors? Now, I know, Andy, you had a tip. I can't personally endorse snitching, but I do think that education, I think, could be a good way forward with consumers. I certainly understand, too, the competition and having to do what you need to do, but curious what else operators can do, Andy, about combating these competitors.
Yeah. So the suggestion to turn in illegal drug sellers to the police is more like a public service than snitching or something. Because, for example, the greatest pizza in Cleveland, Jared, is Geraci's, right?
Angelo's?
Okay, Angela.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk about that later. We go to Geraci's anyway.
Wendy's ciders, the elite.
Okay, fine. There's a smoke shop right across the street from this place, and the guy there knows us, and he knows what I do for a living. He said, I'm so glad you're finally doing something about all these shops like that. When I'm so tired of watching kids ride up on a bicycle and walk out with a bag full of marijuana. So it's the fact that it's illegal in the first place and targeted at kids in the second place is it's unacceptable. What can we as operators do about it? I mean, other than helping report them and get all levels of law enforcement to run in and confiscate this stuff and shut people down if necessary. I think we just keep building the market. I totally agree with Melissa. There's a shortage situation in a lot of areas right now, and there's also a bunch of us, including the 3 cultivators on stage here, that are either completed with expansion or in the middle of expansion, and a bunch of us that are not on stage right now doing the same thing. So I think those shortages are going to get lower, which will undoubtedly give more people an alternative to going into the illegal smoke shop, which half the people that go in there think they're going into a dispensary in the first place.
That's right. I've been in a few smoke shops in the last week or so, and many of the people behind...
I thought you preferred the legal stuff.
Many of the people behind the desk look a lot like me, and they...
They're not that handsome.
And they have, and lo and behold, when you ask for the good stuff, right, they go into the back and out they come with some product that had been purportedly banned under SB 56. And so, the word snitch is obviously one that is volatile, but honestly, everybody in this room did it the right way. We followed the rules, we followed the regulations, and it's important for us to try to protect it and maintain it. And the other thing we can combat is with the messaging, right? Okay, so we recriminalize marijuana in Ohio. Did we really? Did we really recriminalize? Or can you have an open container of alcohol in your vehicle? No, you can't. And so the legislators said, don't have open weed in the car, put it in the trunk. I might not have said put it in the trunk, but I understand where they were getting at. Can you consume alcohol out on a public street? No, you're not supposed to. And so the same goes for marijuana right now. Can you smoke weed in a landlord's place if he or she tells you not to? Well, you can't have a dog at a landlord's house if the landlord doesn't want you to. You can't smoke cigarettes. And so this isn't recriminalization. It's not exactly how I would have written the law, but it's also not undoing the will of the people.
No, and I definitely endorse the education and consumers being safe. And I didn't mean to give you a hard time, Andy. I want to be really clear about that, because I think you also raised a very good point that the general consumer doesn't know. And in fact, a lot of times law enforcement doesn't know either, what's what, because they're constantly trying to play catch up with all of these products, And so I'm going off book a little bit, but I'm curious, what you guys are doing from a brand perspective on that education. I've written a lot of articles, about how do I know if I'm in an illegal dispensary? Because so many of them are so sophisticated, nobody would know. And so I'm curious if you guys are doing anything from a public messaging perspective from your companies.
I want to jump on that. Yes. That is very passionate to me. There is some things that we do at the dispensary that are part of the old medical program. Patient Education Day pamphlets are at my counters. At every transaction, we offer that to someone because they can take it, and if they go home and they leave it on the counter, the chances of them reading about how to dose and educate themselves makes them feel more comfortable to come back to us than going to the corner store, and then they have an effect that doesn't work well, and they come to us to have us fix it, and we don't even know where to start with them because they don't even know what they got. So patient pamphlets, social media, we do a lot about high key facts. when we're just talking about cannabis in general. And I think that carries a lot of weight. I hear that from our guests all the time when we're together, that the education that we provide in the dispensary makes them feel more comfortable about where they're going to purchase, even if it's not me. It could be at any one of these gentlemen's places that are close to me. But they feel good about the decision they made inside the store. So as far as us as legal operators, we still have parts of this medical program that we can pull out, lean on, and educate our staff and our people as well.
Guys, let me jump in because the first thing I have to emphasize is, Rachelle, I am delighted to be up here with you. And I've read a lot of your stuff, and you really do know what you're writing about with our industry. And it's great to have people that in the media that really do the work to understand what really goes on in our business.
Thank you. That means a lot.
My pleasure, because one of the most clever things of all has been the communication campaign that was run by the so-called OCC. Now, we're all members of Ohio Cannabis Coalition, and somehow they picked the same letters, and they called themselves Ohioans for Cannabis Choice. There wasn't a single person involved with that effort that ever had anything to do with cannabis. So people like us, everybody on the stage here, including yourself, have been involved with this market for almost a decade now. And they managed to put this off on the public like they were saving all the consumer rights that Jared was referring to. And it's all about cannabis rights when it was all about keeping the stores open, selling their illegal, dangerous products to kids. So to combat that, I'll put on the OCAN hat again. We're trying hard to run information campaigns and get to people. It's really hard. Nobody knows that better than you. But we're going to continue doing that. We've got a great Assistant Executive Director, Adrienne Robbins, who may be out there, and a great membership that is really backing it. So that's one path that we're trying to use to communicate. Thank you.
I would love to learn more about that in the green room afterwards, because again, I'm a big fan of making sure that consumers are just informed. So thank you for that, Andy, and all of you guys for what you're doing. And kind of in that vein, we talked a lot in the pre-panel call about unity, right? Unity between the operators, the regulators, the consumers, the legislators, and how that's what is really going to take for this market to thrive, right? Because we're stronger together in that sort of way. So I know I was going to have Jared take the lead, but you may have something that you want to say too about it, Adam.
I'll just say something really quickly. You kind of hit the nail on the head. So when we were the first entrance into the program, we had two regulating bodies, right? We had Board of Pharmacy and Department of Commerce, right? So in the beginning, they were really non-communicative with each other, is kind of what we had found out. So I think a lot of license holders kind of band together and try to get them to communicate with one another, and that kind of started early the associations, and it's kind of changed over time. But that was kind of one big thing in the start of the program was trying to get our regulator to communicate and streamline things. And fortunately, part of issue 2, prior to issue 2, the DCC was formed, right, the Division of Cannabis Control. So it's one governing body, and that really helped out our industry kind of become more efficient. So that's all I wanted to say on that.
You asked about unity. I think one of the best ways to I reflect on the unity and the best evidence is if you just go to Reddit, you'll see how happy all the customers are with us. No, I'm joking, obviously, but the consumers, the producers and the regulators, we all have a role. And I used to work in finance, and I always said, I have two bosses, my boss and my auditors. And in cannabis, I have two bosses, my board and our regulators. And sometimes your bosses are in a good mood in the beginning of the day, and sometimes they're not. And you got to just, you have to react and do the best that you can and treat all of the consumers and our guests with respect. And I think that really, if you follow that guiding light, you'll be in good shape.
can I jump in again?
Please.
I'm talking too much, so I apologize.
No, not at all. Please.
First of all, Jared, my boss lives at home with me. Okay. Second of all, I'm always the old guy in every meeting, and even though I still think like a young guy, so I've been in a lot of businesses, and this is an incredibly unique business because, we compete with each other. The three of us compete with each other. We're all three market leaders, and
Don't count me out.
the four of us compete with each other. I didn't mean to do that at all because I really want you to keep buying from us. And
He's always a salesman.
we have known each other since the very beginning, Melissa. So it's tremendous. But now where was I going? You got me. All right, you got me.
All right.
I was going to say, we try to beat each other's brains and, all day long in the marketplace. And then we can sit down and have a drink together or have a meeting together or do this together or play golf or whatever we do, the stupid things we do. It's a phenomenon that I've never seen before in a business. And I think it's because we're all involved with a maverick type business. We're like trailblazers here in Ohio and in the United States still. And, you're part of that and all of us are part of it. And there's a level of excitement and it draws a certain mentality, I think.
No, absolutely. And, the rapport that you guys have with one another and that you've built, I noticed it on the pre-panel call, I noticed it in the green room. It's really refreshing because at the end of the day, we're all on the same team. And I think that's what I think everybody in the room needs to remember too. And so I'm curious, kind of as we finish up the panel here, I'd love to rapid fire each of you offering some actionable insights. How can we move forward together to embrace what we have built in Ohio and what's to come, and how can we ensure that in this next chapter that Ohio's market thrives? Adam, we'll start with you.
Okay, geez, word of mouth, right? So it's kind of shocking that, I was in a conversation last week with some friends and they're saying, oh, I didn't realize like cannabis was legal in Ohio now, or we had heard people say the same thing, and I'm like, how could that be? Like, obviously, I'm living, breathing this industry every day now. It's my life, really, which I love. Thank you, everybody out there that's been supportive of Klutch and the industry. But, education, telling people about the program, the legal program, getting people in the stores, there's a lot to it. So I think it's pretty much educating people in Ohio that, yes, we are a legitimate business. We're controlled, we're operated, regulated, and that's really it.
And reminding people of the benefits of buying legal, right? Yeah. Andy, how about you?
Sure. I mean, last year the industry at retail did $1 billion, the legal industry, and the illegal industry did probably close to $2 billion. So as that goes away, we'll automatically pick up some significant share of people that used to go into those shops. So we recently had 3 different studies done, a 5-year study of where the market would be in 5 years. And it was funny. Our own internal forecast we'd be somewhere on the other side of $2 billion of sales, so double what's going on now, which to Melissa's point is going to take a lot more product to get us there. One was in the middle, and then another one had us at 3.4 billion in 5 years. So, and these were professional cannabis reporting firms that know how to use the information correctly. So that is such a broad future for what we're going to do that even if it's the low end, we're doubling our market in the next 5 years, and that's going to provide not only all kinds of opportunity for growth for our businesses, but all kinds of opportunity for people that come into our business or are already there, to move up and take on more responsibility and have opportunity. And that's a really exciting thing for me.
Definitely. The door is still open, for sure. Jared, what do you think?
Back to the unity question, I think the industry speaking with one voice is really important. And so another plug for OCAN, because they're doing an exceptional job of helping us speak with one voice. And for any of the members out in the audience that haven't, signed up with OCAN, I think it's worth giving that team a call and give them a conversation and giving them the opportunity to earn your membership.
And you got to be sure to tell them that Jared recommended you, so you can get that 10% discount that Jared's going to cover.
All right, Melissa, final words. What do we think?
Final words. I believe Ohio still has opportunities amongst many things related to cannabis and ancillary, but the opportunity for everybody to continue speaking honestly, working together, and being a part of the team, that's what we all signed up for, and not to deviate from that plan, because consistency, education, and having these conversations with your bud tenders will help you continue to thrive in this market.
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much for sharing your insights, panelists. I really appreciate all of you so much. Thank you to Lori, our amazing MC, and thank you to the Ignite It team for having us. I hope to see you all in Chicago.
All right, let's give it up for our last panel. Did I not say Rachelle was going to be amazing?